Since America legalized gay marriage nationwide, it seems the world has exploded into a sea of rainbows that were before hidden from view. People from all across the globe are celebrating this momentous event in history, with 24 out of 88 countries now legalizing gay marriage, with the first being the Netherlands in 2001.
So let's also celebrate and take a look at the hardships and happinesses that have shaped Western queer cinema, a genre often overlooked that has recently blossomed in mainstream media.
Queers in film, despite what many people believe, have been on screen for just as long as the screen itself has been around, with the debut Gay Act of two men dancing together being shown in 1895. This little film caused quite a stir, as it was seen as impolite and not normal male behaviour. As silent films grew in popularity, flamboyant and effeminate male characters continued to share the spotlight. Often being portrayed as the comic relief, their mannerisms became stereotypes, which continued on even to today's cinema. As film progressed into what we call the talkies, aka the first films to have audio, the popularity of these flamboyant characters grew and were coined the nickname the sissy or the pansy. During the 1930s, sissy characters mainly consisted of smaller roles. Still serving as the comic relief, their only purpose on screen was to lighten up the mood of the film. Sissies were rarely taken seriously and were seen as more of a gag than a person.
During the 1940s, the sissy character changed. No longer were they the ever-happy helper, but instead a hidden threat to society and heterosexuality, in dark tones and with hidden subtext.
After the stock market crash of 1929, the cinema industry was in crisis. People weren't buying tickets, and studios needed a plan fast. There was only one thing to do to get audiences back in theatres. They had to be shocked. Studios began to dress up their stars in drag, and people came running. Who wouldn't want to see one of Hollywood's heartthrobs dressed in the same outfit as their leading lady co-star? This tactic worked so well that even today we can see it. Films such as Big Mama's House, Mrs. Doubtfire, Glen or Glenda, and my personal favourite, Some Like It Hot, have continued in this fashion of placing characters in situations where the only outcome is to dress in drag, and by doing so, have kept audiences coming back for more. Sadly, there are very few films that show transgender as a chosen way of life rather than a gimmick. Priscilla, Queen of the Desert, and Birdcage are just some of the few films that touch on this topic. From 1930 right up until 1968, American features were filmed under strict guidelines called the Hays Code. Named after Will W. Hays, its creator, the code limited filmmakers on many social and political themes and messages. Any film that did not follow the Hays Code was not shown to the public. The Hays Code, despite its many specific guidelines, followed three general principles. No picture shall be produced that will lower the moral standards of those who see it, hence the sympathy of the audience should never be thrown to the side of crime, wrongdoing, evil, or sin. Correct standards of life, subject only to the requirements of drama and entertainment, shall be presented. Law, natural or human, shall not be ridiculed, nor shall sympathy be created for its violation. The Hays Code made it clear that no sexuality or sexual perversion, aka homosexuality, was ever to be shown again. This meant that the age of the sissy was over.
But that didn't stop filmmakers, many making their homosexual characters more subtler than usually shown. This often led to homosexual characters being seen as the antagonists, a very threat to the fabric of society.
The Hays Code was finally abandoned during the 1960s to compete with the growing popularity of television. Hollywood was now free again, and after the events of the Stonewall riots, it was now clear a new market had emerged: LGBT. In 1969, Hollywood attempted its first feature film marketed exclusively to the LGBT community. The film was titled The Boys in the Band, and though it was much loved by mainstream media, gay communities voiced that it was unrealistic to what it was really like to be a homosexual in the US, depicting most gay men and bi men as unhappy.
During the 1970s and 80s, queer cinema was pushed out of mainstream cinema and became an underground movement, thanks to many religious and right-wing political groups.
But that was not the end. During the 1990s, queer cinema was reborn again with a boom. Suddenly, queers were once again in mainstream cinema. Today, queer cinema is as strong as ever, and has given birth to the movement called New Queer Cinema. Films created by openly gay filmmakers that touch upon how LGBT people are treated in modern society and cinema. Though Hollywood has tried to show LGBT films in a positive light, many communities still believe that these films do not fully showcase their lives.
So, without further ado, here are my top 10 favourite queer cinema films.
Some Like It Hot, 1959. The Rocky Horror Picture Show, 1975. Philadelphia, 1993. The Adventures of Priscilla, Queen of the Desert, 1994. The Talented Mr. Ripley, 1999. Brokeback Mountain, 2005. I Love You, Philip Morris, 2009. Behind the Candelabra, 2013. Call Me By Your Name, 2017. The Perfection, 2018.
Well, that's me for today. I hope you enjoyed the video and learned a little bit about queer cinema. Please like, comment and subscribe, and I will see you again soon.